Nice. Very nice. Good morning. Welcome to Distracted Thoughts. I'm Aaron. I'm here with my friend Dathan this morning, and it's a beautiful day, Dathan. What is up in your world?
Oh man, a lot of same old, same old. A lot of dropping things. Oh, excuse me. Hold on.
Throwing things on the
Yes.
floor.
It's been good. I'm really enjoying the warmth we're getting coming in. This whole week is going to be beautiful.
Yeah, it's
So
supposed to be.
I'm looking forward to a beautiful weekend to be able to get out and enjoy some time outside. So spent last weekend building my kids a fort.
Yeah. Oh, awesome.
It may or may not have turned into a tiny home. It's 2 stories and 160 square feet.
Oh,
so
my goodness.
it's kind of big. My wife was out of town and last Saturday, and I'm like, I'm going to build the kids a fort. She's like, all right, cool. We got scrap wood around the house. And after 2 trips to Pro-X, truck full of lumber, they now have a 10 by 8, 2-story, 10 by 8 on the bottom, 10 by 8 on top, with a lookout tower, and trap doors and things covered in camouflage netting. So
Okay. So it went a little far.
went a little far. She come back, she was like, "Oh my goodness!" the boys love it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, but that was fun.
Well, as I say, they're going to be moving out there this summer.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
going to be spending all their time out in the shed.
Declan's already asking you to put his bed out there.
Nice. Yeah, for me, so weird thing. Weather's been beautiful. We've been working on house stuff. One of the things we found out recently, so our lender wanted a water test. So this is one of the other, told you about some things, but this is one of the other things they wanted was a water test. Okay. So we're like, okay, let's find out. We want to know what it is. So I took a sample, took it to my Turner Plumbing, which
Yeah.
my sister works there, right? Took it in, and they ran it, and they said, she called me, Lucas called me and said, hey, your water's a little funny. And I'm like, okay, tell me. He's like, okay, you actually have soft water. We were expecting hard water.
Yeah.
You know, your the hardness of your water registered at a 4, which is, anything under 17 is considered soft. There's no iron, 0 iron content. There's a thing called particulates. Basically, anywhere you have water, there's particulates that float in the water. Normal range is between 3 and 500. Ours was 312, so it's on the low end. What was off the charts was our the alkaline, the pH, right? Normally 5, 5.5, 6, you're good. Ours registered at 13.
Good gracious.
Okay, so I'm talking to him, and he's like, there's something wrong. There's something wrong here, and he and I are talking through it, and then I talked to Chris, local water guy here runs, and we were talking through it. And he's like, it's a new system, right? Yeah. He's like, did you clean this? Did you clean the tank? Did you clean it beforehand? Well, yeah, we dumped like 2 gallons of bleach in the tank beforehand. He's like, have you run it? Not a ton. He's like, yeah, for the entire city, we use 20 gallons for 300,000 gallons of water. You used 2 gallons for 2,500. He's like, you used over 10 times the amount that we use. He's because he knows all these things. He's like, basically, you have bleach. It's like your water is, and that's funny because then I called Lucas back. He's like, yeah, we thought it had a high amount of chlorine.
Did you take this from a pool?
Right. So basically, they're like, hey, just go hook up a hose. We only pay electric for it. But he's like, yeah, hey, we got to go run it for like a day. So we'll just pay the electric to go run it off into a local pond. Funny thing with all that is kind of, so one of the things, and this is the kind of about our topic today, is the comparing. Like I'm thinking, I'm drinking the water and I'm like, oh, it's fine. Oh, it's fine. Everything's okay. And my wife keeps saying, there's something, because we haven't, again, we haven't run it. She's like, it doesn't taste right. There's something off. And not me. I'm like, oh, it tastes better than grandma's water. It tastes better than it tastes better than this other water. And I'm like, I'm deluding myself in comparing it to all these other waters when there was actually something wrong with it.
You've been drinking bleach water.
I've been drinking bleach. So the idea, like even in those, because we're talking a little bit about the idea of comparison, right? So even in my own life, like with this something simple as water, I'm comparing it to other people's, trying to tell myself it's fine, when in fact, no, there's actually something wrong there.
How often do we do that in life?
Right.
Oh my goodness, I do it all the time. Whether we want to or not, it's subconscious.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We've grown up in a world where there was so many options, I believe, that we pretty much have a comparison to something.
Yeah.
No matter what we're doing, we can compare it to something that has happened similar in our life, or something that we've used similar in our life, or whatever it is. Getting into a car. You get into one car and you drive it, you get into another car and you drive it, you compare it to the car you just drove.
Yeah.
Whether it's better or worse or whatever.
Right.
Just out of subconscious, because it's an experience.
Right.
With kids, you compare one kid to another kid.
Right.
That never works out.
No, it really doesn't. It's one of those things. It's like, this is very much different.
Yeah.
It is absolutely one of those, like, hey, can it be that thing for that thing's sake?
Yeah.
So I'm going to do something. Can we turn that off?
Oh, yeah.
There it is. Okay.
There was the buzz.
Yeah.
We're still learning our new podcast room, and apparently the overhead light buzzes
significant.
Yes.
I was going like, what?
I kept hearing it too, and I'm like, what is that? What is that? Yep, it was that light.
So forgive us, that.
Yeah.
It got to the point I'm like, I know what it is. Like, I got it.
So today we're going to talk about the cost of comparing and comparison. When does comparing things and comparing ourselves to other people actually hold us back instead of drive us forward? So
that's one of those. That is one of those things, especially like psychologically, right? We live in a world now. Like when you and I were younger, the comparison pool was smaller, right?
Mm-hmm.
The idea of I was a small fish in a smaller pond, but now it's the world, right? With social media, all these things, and everybody puts the best images of themselves, and so we're always comparing this thing to that, and it's not healthy.
No,
it's not. So, I mean, I have even locally, like I have a cousin, 15, 16 years younger than I am. I actually ran into a situation with him. I was actually, so it came up the other day. I was sitting down, and one of my aunts was there, and I said, hey, we're talking, and I said, hey, Graham, why is it that he leaves whenever I come around? Why is it that as soon as I show up, minutes, and he's gone, right? And for some reason, he thinks that I look down on him. He thinks that I have a superiority complex because he's comparing himself who he is today to who I am today. And my aunt was sitting there. She laughed. She's like, does he not know anything about you? Like, and because here are the things where you and he were alike in the things that happened in your life. And my grandma's like, well, no, I've never said anything about it. That's not mine. Like, well, and my aunt says, well, if he's avoiding and you know it, you should, because he's obviously not going to talk to Aaron.
Wow. Yeah. So, there you go. I mean, a relationship being held back because he's not thinking he's good enough to talk to you, or he's thinking you're better than him, or he's using comparison.
Right.
I've done it in my life. With people, I've been on both sides of it. There was a time where in the work in my career that I looked up to the guy I was working for,
Right.
and so if there was any sort of criticism,
Right.
I felt like I wasn't good enough. It took me a long time to break out of that shell. So if there was, and for the most part, I wasn't being criticized because it was horrible. I was being criticized because that was the way that person looked to better me.
Right.
But I didn't look at it that way at the
Right.
time. And I took that trait and it trickled down because I was right hand man. So it trickled down to the people who were beneath me, and I was doing the same thing to them.
Right.
And then when I finally realized it, somebody called me out on it actually.
Right.
When I finally realized it, I had to change the way I approached that situation.
Right.
I had to change the way that I approached talking to them or giving them constructive criticism.
Right.
And because what would happen is they would compare themselves to, I'd have two employees in a meeting and that worked under me, and one would share something, I would congratulate it because I liked it.
Mhm.
The other one would share something, and I would have a twist on it because it wasn't exactly what we were looking for, and I would say something like that, and that person would compare themselves to the other employee and think I'm just not good enough. So they would
Right.
almost quit trying.
Right. Right.
They would not continue trying,
Right.
and that was difficult. That was difficult to watch,
Right.
because and especially once I noticed it.
Right.
Then I felt bad. But I've done it. I mean, when I've opened businesses, I open a business, and if there's a competitor in town, I constantly compare myself.
Right.
And this last business I've done, I've embraced the
The
competition
difference.
and the difference, and seen how I could capitalize on the difference
Mm-hmm.
instead of comparing myself to, well, I'm not doing that. Should I do that?
Right.
When it comes to what they post on social media and it happened yesterday with another person who doesn't usually do T-shirts,
Mm-hmm.
posted something yesterday saying they had Badger gear.
Okay.
And at first I was like, oh crap,
Right.
I should have posted something about this, and I didn't. And then I'm like, you know what? No, good job. I like their post.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because this is a person I'm friends with.
Right.
And, up until now, they hadn't got into the T-shirt game. And so who am I to say, well, because I'm not doing that, mine's not going to be successful?
Right.
No, that's not the case. You know what I mean? We have completely different businesses. They work out of their house. I work out of we have an actual full retail store.
Right.
I'm going to get that walk-in business. They may
Right.
get some of the online order businesses that I don't get because
Right.
they're only online, but that's okay. There's enough to go around.
Right.
And so when you quit comparing yourself to what should I have done different to be like that, you can expand what you're doing good.
Well, the word comes to mind is genuine.
Yeah.
The word I think of, who are you to be genuine to what skills you have, what you have to offer, what is actually who you are. The hard thing is the comparison to start off with. I mean, it's hard because it's not a terrible thing, but it's not healthy completely either. Like, okay, I like what this person is doing. Can I take pieces of it? Not the whole thing, because I
Yeah.
can't be them. I'm not them. I'm not you. You're not me. Can I take pieces of what they do and compare, because I do know I have this skill or that skill. But that's the hard part, is separating out the whole, the pieces from the whole. What is, and then also, who am I? Genuinely, who am I in doing it? Like you, I want to do things differently. Even in my own counseling business, I do things that other counselors don't necessarily do. I had two different people who had been to counseling before who said, I know more about you after one meeting, and I feel more comfortable with you after one meeting than I did 6 months with another counselor. Like, I'm more willing to talk to you because I know who you are. Other counselors don't do that.
No.
They are afraid to get personal. They're afraid to talk about genuine things. well, I'm just that guy. I'm a
Yeah.
I'm a storyteller.
That's right.
I like to talk through real life situations.
And I think that's the biggest difference. That is, talking to you, it's all genuine.
Mhm.
It's not you don't listen to respond. You actually listen to listen.
Right.
And there's a huge difference.
Right.
Me, I've told you this before. I was 100% against counselors.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't want to be in the same room with them. I didn't respect
Didn't know
them.
one of your friends would be one.
I didn't know. No, I had no idea. And when we first met, and you were a counselor for the schools, I was like, whatever. He's a counselor for schools. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then you went into your own private business. We had got to know each other a lot better. Then I'm like, okay, I guess I have a friend that's a counselor. This is weird because I'm not down for counselors. My wife had been to counselors since she was 15. In and out. She tried to get me before. I'm like, listen, I'm not going to someone and just talk to them, and I don't know them.
Right.
I don't have any clue, and they're not willing to even let me get to know them.
Right.
They just want to listen to me so they can psychoanalyze me and give me a textbook answer to fix all my problems. That doesn't work.
No, it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
And most of them don't even want you to fix your problems. They just want you to continue talking about them.
Right.
So that was my biggest thing. And then now that I'm glad I've seen the other side of it now.
Right.
Because I don't have such a vendetta against counselors. But
well, you can have it against some.
yeah. Because I also have learned in getting to know you, and then having to deal with a child who was in a different counselor.
Yeah.
The difference, like the crazy, like this is night and day. Both these people shouldn't have the same profession.
Right.
Like there's just not.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I'm sure you run into is the term counselor probably gets a bad rep.
Yeah, it does.
And you probably have to fight that to a point. Now, like you said, once they talk to you, it's a different story.
Right.
But getting that through the door is, I'm assuming that's a roadblock in some people's world.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you talk about that comparison. They think they know because they've been. They think they know because they've gone or heard or seen. It's funny. Guys in particular are really pretty rough, which is funny because that's my specialty is men, young men, youth, but men. I'll only work with married couples. I won't work with women individually. Biblically, I find it, I won't counsel another man's wife. It's one of those kind of things. Okay. But, they are sometimes really hard to, like, they have an idea. They have these things, or they've heard stories and they compare, like they assume, oh, you must be blah, blah, blah. You must be like this, or you must be like that. Or I've heard from horror stories. Yeah, my buddy's wife went to counseling and then she left him. Like, well, that's wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, well, yeah, of course I would have a bad taste in my mouth for that too, because that feeling. But it is seeing the differences. Yeah, in a lot of ways, I am the same. I know all the book stuff.
Yeah.
It's all there. Just applying it in different ways, figuring out, again, that uniqueness that we're talking about. Like you with your business, finding that niche, that thing that you're unique at. And how do people find that uniqueness? Again, comparing. Like we have similar traits, but finding the unique thing about us and going forward with that. Yeah, this information, collected a lot of it. You too, along the lines, collected a lot of it. But what's different also?
Yeah, so a good example for me was, and I did something that, it's funny, I'll give the whole story. So, as you know, I own an indoor airsoft arena.
Yep.
It's actually directly below us right now. It's in the basement here.
Yep.
And I had never even shot an airsoft gun before I opened this business.
Right.
I knew that much about airsoft.
Right.
Honestly, didn't even know. I'd never been shot with one. I mean, I'd never even played with a cheap one from Walmart.
Right.
I grew up playing paintball,
Right.
but it was outdoors.
Right.
So I had no experience in the world of airsoft. But you know what I did have experience in?
Mhm.
Business and getting customers to come to something unique.
Right. Right.
So when we first started, it was very much led by my partner
Mhm.
as far as what things are going to look like, how the course is going to look, what games we're going to play, because he grew up playing airsoft.
Okay.
So he was replicating everything he had ever done.
Okay.
A few months into it, well, I guess almost a year into it, I ended up buying his portion out.
Mhm.
And then what I decided to do was I'm going to change the games.
Yeah.
I'm going to change the course. I'm going to change the way of thinking. Not that his was wrong.
Right.
I'm not saying that. But I'm going to do it different.
Mhm.
I'm not going to go look at what the best courses look like. I'm not going to go look at what are the games other airsoft companies play. I'm just going to come up with them.
Right.
I'm just going to come up with whatever's on my brain and try it out.
Right.
And so we started doing that. And then what happened is I started letting my employees come up with games
Right.
that they just come up with.
Right.
To the point of now, all of except one of our games is completely different than any other airsoft field plays.
Nice. Okay.
And it's because we just decided to do it our way.
right.
I didn't go look at what the game rules are of other airsoft places or anything like that because I didn't want to copy anything. I wanted to be unique.
Right.
So what's happened now is it's done got so unique that some of the games we're playing have been getting talked about on airsoft forums and airsoft discords that now other fields are copying our games that we made up because we just want to be different.
Right.
And so two of our best games are being copied all over the Pacific Northwest right now in outdoor and indoor fields. And
That's
so
awesome.
it's like that's a prime example of going outside the box.
Mhm.
Why should I make my airsoft business look like everybody else's airsoft business?
Right.
There's zero reason to do that.
Right.
You know, yes, you can take things when something doesn't work, eliminate it.
Right.
When it works, keep it.
Right.
Whether the person down the road's doing it or not, do it.
Right.
You know, I didn't do that with my t-shirt business. I decided I was going to do this because I've seen this in other shops, and I've learned that the majority of those things aren't working.
Right.
So I've kind of switched up my game plan now
Mhm.
and completely went different than other places are doing, and it's starting to work.
Right.
So it's just unique. It's just like, you know what? I think this is awesome,
Mhm.
and I'm going to do it.
Right.
And guess what? When you think something's awesome, you're passionate about it, and you show other people, they can feel your passion for it.
Right.
They can feel your enthusiasm for it, and they get excited about it.
Right. It's so much easier to sell something you care about, like my than it is to try to sell something that you're lukewarm. It doesn't really
Yep.
matter, right? You know, not your thing, but hey, I think this is a good idea. I don't really know about it, but if you dive in, you're passionate, you know it, you love it. Like my wife jokes all the time. She's like, I can tell when you're passionate about something. Like you get big, your hands get out here, you start to talk, you know, you move, your enunciation becomes very specific. She's like, you are, you know, and I'm sure Alexis is the same. Like
Yeah.
she sees, like you become almost a different animal when you're passionate about something, and I want to follow that, right?
Mhm.
And I think that's it. It's because even if you don't have all the details filled out completely, you have an idea, and it's your idea, and you love that idea, and you're going with it. Being able to tweak too, knowing that this is my plan, this is where I'm starting, and being able to say, okay, that's not going exactly. And I think I hear you saying that with the t-shirt business, with
Mhm.
Squirrely Tees, right? Like, hey, I'm going this oh no, we need to redirect a little bit. We need to go a little bit different direction. We need
Yep.
to change things up a little bit. So
And you know, it's for the last 6 months, I'm the only one that's been doing it.
right,
I haven't had any employees.
right,
That in itself is its own stress with business.
Right.
You put a lot of things aside that you want to try because you got to do what is paying the bills. And And so that's what I've been doing for the last 6 months. And then I hired someone, and then I actually got to spend 4 hours doing things that I thought could be creative for the business, and they're already working. I mean, literally one day of it, and they're already working.
Well, not just that, just exactly what we're talking about. Okay, I can do, old commercial. You can go and make the donuts, but that's not what you're passionate about. How are you, if you're in the back room running the press, doing the different things like that, how are you selling the business?
You're not.
How are you actually talking with new clients, customers about, oh, hey, I got this idea for your logo, or I got this idea, or hey, what about this? So if you're running the machine, making the donuts, just doing that stuff, how are you being effective in selling the idea? You're not.
And I've always heard in business, and I know this in business, you're only as good as the team you have.
Right.
I don't care how good of a CEO or how good of a founder or how good of a whatever you are.
Right.
You can only be as good as your limit. And your limit is your team.
Right.
Especially when you don't have one.
Right.
So you start building a team. Yes, it costs money.
Right.
Yes, it takes away from the profit. But if that team member can allow you to produce more profit,
right,
they're not costing you anything.
Right.
So you always want to be able to quantify and offset the cost of an employee or a team member by what they can produce.
Yeah.
So
yeah. It's funny. You and I were talking a little bit earlier. Yeah. We're both business guys. We come back to that business thing. It's personal too, man. It's personal. Your life is not like my life. Our kids' lives. We try to train them the best. But how do we do with that comparison stuff? It's the old saying, are you keeping up with the Joneses?
Yep.
In modern day, how am I doing if I'm looking at the neighbor, the guy down the street, the guy a pew or two over from me at church, and saying, oh man, I wish I was more like them. Do you actually want to be like them? Do you even know what's actually going on?
No.
2 houses down.
You have no idea. You see surface.
Right.
That is real life social media.
Yeah.
You see what the mask that they put on, and maybe everything's great.
Yeah.
But all you see is the mask they put on when they leave the house.
Right.
The mask they have in their car as they throw their hand up to you as they drive by your house.
Right.
The mask they may wear when there's a neighborhood get together and you see them there.
Right.
Anybody can wear a mask for an hour or so.
Yeah.
For a short period of time.
Right.
Just like we do the same thing.
Yeah.
But you're right. I lived, when we first bought our home, the people who lived directly across the street from us were meticulous lawn care people. Every time he cut his grass, he cut it in rows and in different rows. One day it would be vertical rows. One day it would be diagonal rows. I know you do it too.
I was say, what's wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong with it. I'm just not that guy.
That's fine.
So what would happen is my wife and my kids would start making comments.
Yeah.
You see how he cuts his grass?
Yeah.
I heard that's better for it. You should try it on ours.
Oh.
No, that's not how I'm cutting my grass. I don't care if it's better.
I'm going round in circles
until I get to the middle, and there's gonna be a little bit circle. Yep, yeah. That's what I do. That's how I cut my grass when I growing up.
Right.
And it was even though I didn't care about it, I felt like I was constantly, every time I cut the grass, being compared to my neighbor.
Yeah.
And he never looked at it that way. He's an awesome guy. I still know him really well. And he never looked at it that way. We've moved now, and the new neighbors barely ever cut the grass. It's like, see, they got the kind of lawn I want. But no, so it is that. But yesterday, I walked outside. Well, not yesterday. I'm sorry. Right after the snow melted, like a month ago.
Yeah. I
walked outside and realized, how right when the snow melts, the yard looks like crap.
Oh, yeah.
Any leaves you didn't get up for the snow fell, I swear the ground produces trash because every time the snow melts, there's trash underneath it.
Yeah, yeah.
But I have kids, so I know it's not the ground. So I walk outside and I'm like, holy cow, this yard looks horrible,
Right.
you know? So I start cleaning up just a little bit. And then I notice my neighbor, guess what he's doing? He's raking all his leaves up.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? I just go rake my leaves too. So I go get the thing and I rake my leaves. And then I realize, oh, he's bagging them. I'm like, yeah, I should get my son to bag my leaves too. Then I bag them. And then I'm like, oh, you know what? That part of the yard looks bad too. His looks better. And now this is where there's a crossover between comparing yourself
Mm-hmm.
and allowing someone else who's doing something well to push you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there is a difference.
Right.
I would not have lost sleep if something would have came up and I had to leave the yard exactly the way it was.
Right.
It wouldn't have. I wouldn't have left there feeling bad about myself.
Right.
So in that instance, it pushed me.
Right.
I got more done. It pushed me. In other instances, when you don't accomplish it to
Mhm.
their standard, and you feel bad about it, that's where it pulls you back. That's where it puts you down. And that's where it literally kills drive. It kills
Right.
productivity. It kills joy. I mean, it destroys a lot of things, and it also trickles down to your family.
Right.
So if you're feel like you're not living up to the next door neighbor's brand new car that he just bought, it trickles down into you hold as men, we hold that in.
Yep.
And then when our wives or one of our kids say something to us, we snap or we say something back that we probably wouldn't have if we wouldn't have been feeling that way.
Right.
Because we feel like we're being attacked and we're not. They have no idea how you're feeling most of the time.
Right.
So,
Well, and that's again, it's the caution of comparison. Like you said, hey, he's doing it. Okay, yeah, something I need to do. But when the weight of when you said, hey, the wife and kids are saying, well, the neighbor does it. Why don't we do it that way, or why don't you do it that way? Because I don't have to.
yeah.
Had it weighed on you, had you felt like it's something that you had to change, something you had to do different to do that, then that's not healthy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, because you're doing it against your own natural. Like, yes, I do it, but funny, I do it. Come to find out, I do it because my grandma did it, and my mom does it, and it's just kind of one of those things that's been trained in.
Yep.
I don't know. Healthier, great. I don't know. I just kind of did it. It's just one of those things. My son, when I get him to mow, because I like to mow, but when I get him to mow, he mows in circles.
Yep.
Go for it, James. Yeah, it's done. I don't have to worry about it.
That's it.
It's not gonna kill the grass. I think that's the important thing too of having other people close to us, people that we can just be ourselves, that we can test out.
Yeah.
Are crazy a little bit with, because there's not necessarily a comparison. There is the chance to experiment with who you are and what fun can be had together, and like I can try, be a little bit different. Like we've talked, I love when our families get together. I know your wife says I can just be me, right? My wife feels the same way. Of like I don't have to compare myself to anybody else. I can just be who I am.
Yeah.
Right.
And it turns out to be a good time when we do that.
Right. Right.
You know?
And that is it. Who are we with that we're just us? No, we can throw ideas out there. Like you and I talk about lots of different things, and we'll throw ideas at each other. But it's not a matter of comparing. It's a matter of, like you said, improving. Comparison versus improvement, right? Well, I'm looking to get better in this area. What do you think? Well, I think you're crazy. Oh, okay, maybe not. Or, oh, yeah, I could see that. I could see that for you. I could see that going that direction. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sidebar here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna share some exciting news. It's my wife's exciting news, but I like to share it because it's exciting for me too. Her whole improv thing group that she's been trying to start down at Sandpoint is going forward. They just got approval for a place to do it.
Nice.
They're going to do a 12-week course. They're gonna teach people, and then they're gonna do a show at the end of that course
Well,
at one of the theaters.
Your wife is hilarious.
She is. I love it. And you talk about when you talk about something and
Yeah.
and somebody just lights up and they change, their whole personality changes.
Yeah.
It's improv for her.
Yeah.
Like comedy and improv she doesn't think she's funny.
Oh,
But she's hilarious.
She is hilarious.
She's so witty.
Yeah.
And so I'm so excited for her. She
Yeah.
starts, I forget when they start. I think they may be starting into May, into this, is it May already? No, it's April.
It's April.
So maybe it's 1st of May. I mean, I think it's in like a month they're starting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they got approval from the theater board to actually have a place to practice and to
Nice.
give classes. And then at the end of, I think it's 10 or 12 weeks, they're going to actually do an actual full improv show people can go to. So
That's awesome.
so we're going to definitely make a date out of that
Oh,
one.
absolutely. Absolutely.
So
Yeah, watching some of your wife's videos,
Yeah.
was just cracked me
Yeah.
up.
And it only gets better when she adds another improv person.
Right.
Like all those are solos,
Right.
solo improv stuff. When she gets on stage, I've watched her. When she gets on stage with another person that's good at improv,
Yeah.
it gets hilarious. Sometimes uncomfortable, but it gets hilarious. But I mean, comedy should be uncomfortable. I mean,
Absolutely.
and it's comedy. It's not personal.
Yeah.
It's not jabs at anyone. It is literally comedy. If you can't laugh at your own insecurities,
Yeah, absolutely.
then what are we doing here?
Right.
So I know
Right.
that's a complete sidebar.
Oh no,
but
I love it. That's
but even
fantastic.
in that, it kind of ties into this. She constantly watches people who are really good at improv, right?
Right.
And she compares herself to that. And we had a conversation about that the other day, and she's kind of shifted. I don't know. It was a very short conversation. It wasn't an in-depth conversation. But I've noticed that she's not comparing herself as much anymore.
Okay.
She's more taking that and going, "Oh, those are cool ideas, but I can put my own twist on them and do it
Right.
myself."
Right.
And it's really good to see her flourishing in
Mhm.
something she's super passionate about.
Right.
Because we all need a passionate hobby. Over the years I've had more hobbies than I can count,
Right.
and I don't really. I mean, this is about my only hobby right now. Is this?
Right.
And I don't do it as much as I'd like to because we stay busy. But
I agree.
um,
I agree.
but yeah, as far as beyond that, I don't really have hobbies anymore. Like I'm not a golfer. I don't play any like sports for fun.
Right.
I really love building cars,
Yeah.
but
That's an expensive
that's an
hobby.
expensive hobby. That's not something you just pick up and go do. That's a very expensive hobby. And it's an expensive to have a place to do it.
Right.
You really got to have a shop. Because when I say build cars, I'm like, I go all out, But yeah.
Yeah, that little garage of yours is not going to do it.
No. Maybe one day I'll have my nice shop in my backyard built,
Right,
and I
right.
can do that.
Yeah,
But
as I say, you got that little garage on the side, but I don't see you.
that
doing
thing is a storage building. That's all that thing is. And my roof just started leaking in it the other day when it
What?
started raining in the back corner. Luckily, there's nothing in the back corner, but
Yeah.
the roof's leaking, so that means it needs a new roof.
Yeah.
So
Well, that
I don't know that I'm
sucks.
going to put the money into the roof, though. I think at that point in time, I would just tear it down and build a new one.
Well, I mean, yeah.
So
See what you can get through with it. No, that's great. I mean, that's like you said, talking about comparison. Yeah, you can. For a time, picking up the basics. You have the talent. Pick up the basics from somebody else. Don't be them.
yeah,
Don't be like somebody else. Be yourself. Like you and I, having somebody that you can look up to in certain things and say, yeah, I like that. I like that part. I like that thing. Be like that. I joke about it all the time. Part of my counseling is I want people to have friends. It sounds weird, like I want you as a counselor, I want you to replace me with a friend and a cup of coffee, right? That's more important.
Yep.
You should be able to do that. Be careful who you pick, who you're comparing to, because like somebody comes into me and they're having challenges with their spouse. Your friend better not be somebody the person you go to better not be somebody that's been married and divorced 5 times.
You're right.
That's probably not the person you want to take marriage advice from, because they might be a fantastic business person or athlete or whatever. Take advice on that stuff,
Yeah.
but don't this area, that's probably not the best person to
Yep.
take advice from. I have a person that I've known for a while that 30s, desperately wants to be in a relationship, but looks around and all of his friends, all they do is complain. And even his parents' relationship is not great. And he's like, I don't know if it's worth it. And I I openly say, dude, that's one of the best things you'll do. It's going to be fantastic and miserable, and everything great is spending life with somebody else.
Yeah.
But his where he's getting his advice is from people that struggle, just not healthy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and it's you build your perception of something with the people with the information you get from the people you surround yourself with.
yeah.
So if I surround myself with, I'm going to jump into the business thing and say this. So for a while, I was surrounding myself with struggling small business owners.
Right.
There's nothing bad about that. I am a struggling small business owner.
Right.
But I was surrounding myself with people who were on the same exact level with me.
Right.
That pretty much all they had to say about business was their struggles in it.
Right.
And it was getting me to the point of thinking, well, this is all it'll ever be.
Yeah.
I wasn't looking beyond that, because I was surrounding myself with those people.
Right.
Well, I broke out of that. And for a few months now, since January,
Mm-hmm.
I've been surrounding myself with successful business people.
Right.
Who still have lots and lots and lots of struggles, but they focus more on the success of the business than they do the hardships of business. They will tell you about them, but they don't make that the focus point of their conversation.
Right.
They focus on, but because of that struggle, it pushed me to do this, which was great.
Right.
So now that I've started surrounding myself with people who are either semi-successful, successful, or just have an optimistic outlook on business,
Right.
it's pushing me to grow mine.
Right.
This is that good comparison.
Right.
It's not even a comparison, really. I'm not trying to be them. I just want to grow so that I can be that optimistic business owner and then help someone else down the road.
Right.
So who you surround yourself with can really tie in to how you compare yourself, how you look at yourself compared to other people. Let's be honest, if you surround yourself with people who are always negative, you're going to be negative.
No, it's true.
If you surround yourself with people who are mostly optimistic and positive, it's going to bring out the positivity in you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not going to be an overnight change, but it will. Because when you're around those people, you're not going to be the negative person in the group.
Yeah.
Why would you do that? You know what I mean? So,
Or
or
you're-
they'll call you out for being the negative
I was
person.
just say,
in the
they'll
group.
either call you out or you'll stop getting invited.
Yeah.
You know, it's that, you're there, they want, but if after a while, if you're going to continue to be that person, it is surrounding yourself with the type of people that you want to be like, right? And if you find yourself surrounding yourself with negative people, and this is something that we teach our kids too. What kind of people are you around? What kind of people are you hanging out with?
Yeah.
What kind of person do you want to be? It's funny. So James, my son, I find that other kids are starting to come to me to talk to me about him because he's turning into a teacher. He's turning into a coach, but he's also surrounding himself with other people that do have the same kind of helping attitude, right? Like, that's a good thing. That's a good trait. Please continue that. My daughter, on the other hand, at times, and she's better now than she's been, surrounded herself with friends who were very Eeyore-like.
Yes.
And so that kind of fed into that in her. Now she's made some changes. She still has some of those friends, but the amount of time that they spend together is different. She spends a lot more time fishing, doing other things. But it does impact. Like, you're around it, it's gonna feed. It's
Yep.
gonna feed you.
And it might not sound like it, but that ties back into our topic.
Yeah.
Because comparison can be, to me, comparison can be two different things.
Mhm.
Comparison can be looking at someone who's doing much better than you
Mhm.
and saying, "Oh man, that person's doing so much better than me. It sucks." You know what I mean? And getting yourself down. So that's
Right.
one part of comparison. Another part of comparison to me is surrounding yourself with people who are going the opposite direction,
Right.
who are actively being negative, doing less, not being driven.
Right.
So what happens is the same effect happens. You go, well, I don't have to be. I don't want to be some great positive person because then I'm not going to have friends.
Right.
So I'm going to bring myself down to
Right.
their level.
Right.
I'm comparing myself to them, going, "Oh man, I'm saying too many positive things. I should say some more negative stuff. I
Right.
should feed on that negative because I want to stay friends." So that
Right.
comparison is actually the opposite. It brings you down to a different level,
Right.
and you're still comparing yourself to them
Yeah.
because nobody. I don't say nobody. Most people don't look at someone else and go, "Oh, I'm much better than them." There's some arrogant people out there, but
There are some.
most of them don't do that.
Right.
So if someone's on a lot lower level than you, and you look at them and you go, you're not going to look at them and go, "Oh, I'm so much better than them. I'm not going to hang out with them anymore." You're going to go,
Right.
"Oh man, I enjoy their friendship, so I'm gonna come down to their level."
Right.
So that comparison is the same thing. It's just you're comparing yourself to someone and you're going down instead of trying to get up to them.
Right.
So there's both sides of that,
Right.
and I've seen that in my kids too.
Right.
I've got two teenagers, and I've watched both of them have different friends, and I can clearly see how one friend brings them up and brings more good out of them, and
Mhm.
another friend brings them down and brings worse out of them.
Yeah.
And they go through these of hanging out with those friends, and I watch it
Right.
in my household. You know what I
Right.
mean? When they're with the negative friends, I get attitude.
Right.
When they're with the positive friends, I get yes sirs.
Yeah, right.
And it's a different story, and it's the same question most of the time. You know what I mean, or the same thing. So I watch that with my kids too, and we're adults. We don't do any different.
No.
I mean, we do the same thing. I mean, me and my wife love hanging out with you and your wife because of that reason. We can be just ourselves,
Mhm.
and there's zero feel like I got to get to that level,
Right.
or I got to do that, or
Right.
man, I wish they would get to my level, or nothing. We
right.
just be the same. We just be who we are,
Right.
and we can. There are couples that we've hung out with throughout our marriage
Mhm.
that when we would leave having dinner with them or something, it would be like, "Oh man, should we have said that? Because do we need to call and apologize? You think I offended them by saying that?" You know, we overthink the entire conversation.
Right.
Whereas us, we hang out, and I have zero of those thoughts when we leave. It's like the only thing I do is I think back on conversations, and I start laughing thinking about them. You know,
I do too. I do too. I think back to some of those and go, huh. Well, that was more than I might have wanted, but it's fine. It's okay.
That conversation went somewhere,
That's right.
but
That's
it's
right.
hilarious.
It is.
And I will bring that up again at some point in time.
Absolutely. Are you sure? Because I remember a story this one time you told me. No, I guess that's the hard thing with the comparison idea, right? That's the hard thing is it can be good. It
Yeah.
can be positive. It can be. My concern, especially for our children, but for us, for our children, is the negative side of it. And there's so much of it out there.
Oh, my goodness.
There's so much of it with the social medias and I mean, fake book,
Oh,
like
yeah.
there's nothing on there that's real. Everything
Nope.
is just snapshots of the best things. I mean, I watched some YouTube videos of like, hey, here's how some of these influencers fake all the good things that are going. They rent studios, and in a day they take 400 pictures of them in jet fuselages and with digital backgrounds and just stuff like this, so that they can make people intentionally attracted to them. But it also makes people feel bad about their own lives, and
So-
it's all fake.
So a lot of these influencers, so something's real big right now in big cities.
Mhm.
I just was looking into this the other day. I don't know how I got in that rabbit hole, but I was probably looking at ideas for my Instagram for one of my businesses. But there are in big cities, there are houses that you can rent that have every room's decorated differently.
Mhm.
You can rent them by the hour to record videos in. You can also, for extra cost, you can have cars in the garage. You can rent a beach house in California with millions of dollars worth of cars in these garages. These are huge houses, right? And you get an hour, or you get however long you rent it for,
Right.
with different rooms. And what these influencers will do is they'll bring tons of change of clothes, and they will record for hours. They will record themselves in different rooms, on the beach, standing by
Right.
cars, sitting in a car, doing all this stuff.
Uh-huh.
And they'll pay $1,000 for an hour to be in this
Yeah,
house.
right.
And then they use all those videos and make shorts out of them and short clips out of them. And they have months worth of stuff to post,
Content. Yeah.
content to post. And it's all fake.
Yeah.
Then they go get in their, whatever,
Yeah.
and little beater car and drive back to their parents' house where they live.
Right.
I mean, that's what this we literally provide a place for people to be fake.
Yeah.
It is tremendous, the amount of it. Hertz Rent a Car has an influencer rental cars that you can get. You can't drive them, but you can pay to come sit in cars and take videos.
That's the dumbest thing. I mean,
For business wise, it's genius for them to do it. But
Right.
yeah, it's crazy. You can just about call any high end hotel now, and they will they will allow you to go walk through the hotel, go into a room, look on the balcony, and all this stuff for a fee.
wow.
You're not even staying there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly it. So talking about the healthy side of comparison, but then we have that kind of stuff.
Which is horrible.
Which is, it's everywhere, and it's a problem. It's paying attention to that, because there are lots of people that don't talk through it, or like, oh, I want to be like blah blah blah, whatever influencer, this person, that person. I'm like, how much of their life is actually real? How much of what you're actually seeing is reality, or is it all this kind of stuff? Is it all fake? I can't know.
Yeah.
So how do hey, maybe you should pick something that you can actually see, somebody you can actually interact with, and be like that instead of what's in that box.
Yeah. Yeah. And none of these people, none of these influencers or anybody like that, they don't put the negative side of things on there.
No.
Unless they intentionally put something negative to gain views and to gain clicks.
Yeah.
But like their real life stuff, their real life struggles,
Yeah.
nah,
Yeah.
you'll never see them. You'll never
Yeah.
know them.
Yeah.
So yeah, that comparison can be the death of a lot of things.
It can.
It can be the death of joy. It can be the death of progression. It can be or progress, not progression, progress. It can be the death of families.
Yeah.
I know lots. I know a good amount of people that I went to school with and grew up with that have got married and then since got divorced because they married someone who was putting on a front most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when they really get into it, a year into it, they realize this is not the person that I thought I was marrying.
Right.
And on one end of that, I see that as selfish.
Yeah.
I don't think divorce is right in, I'd say, 90% of the situations.
Right. Right.
There has to be an element of selfishness to say, you know what, I'm not willing to work the extraness, even if the other person's not.
Right.
Type deal. But that's a whole nother
That's,
podcast.
as I say, that's a whole nother area.
But I've watched people do that, and you see it more and more nowadays. Look at Hollywood. Hollywood's fake. Hollywood's fake as hell.
Yeah.
But you see it in all these Hollywood marriages.
There's actors, of course.
They're actors. They're everything they're doing is acting.
Yeah.
You get a few of them who end up making it a long time and they're great together. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
it's the comparison thing has killed more ideas and joy and marriages and
Oh yeah.
progress than
Then
anything else.
Just about anything else.
Yep.
Yep. Just
So.
about anything else. But sir, I think we're just
think
about
we
there.
are.
Yeah.
Yep.
You got things to do today. I got
do.
things to do today. So, Dathan, it's the tradition, man.
All
What are
right.
your final thoughts, sir?
Final thoughts of the day is when you find yourself when you find yourself in a comparison situation, whether you're comparing yourself to someone, something that person has, step back and look and think about what your life would look like if you didn't compare yourself to anybody. Step back and look and say, how would it be if I didn't compare myself and I was just who I'm built to be with everything I do?
Yeah.
And if you can do that, I think that could be life-changing.
I agree. I
think
mean,
it'd be completely
absolutely,
life-changing.
absolutely. Take the pieces, not the whole. Take the things that are good, the things that are you. Be genuine in it.
Be genuine.
Be
That's
genuine.
that's the final thought. Be genuine.
Yeah.
So
With that, another episode of Distracted Talks. Thank you all. Have a wonderful afternoon.